This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
What's up, Detroit sports fans? Welcome to the Fan Report show made by fans for fans, powered by the Detroit Sports Podcast Network. I'm Nick, and joining me today is Andrew's going to give us this week's topics.
Things are moving so fast here in Detroit. A couple weeks ago, we talked about Stafford leaving. Last week, we talked about Derrick Rose leaving. And we said, here's to Blake Griffin being next. And lo and behold, this week, we're talking about Blake Griffin. It's the Fan Report.
Okay, well, wow, we just kind of steamrolled through the intro today.
Just like Detroit's doing with their sports teams.
Apparently. Well, while you guys are still probably digging yourselves out of the blizzard we just had, winter storm of 2021.
It's days like these, and I'm thankfully working from home.
Considering it was on President's Day that we got this blizzard,
Yes.
Was that just one last fuck you from Donald Trump?
Yes, because, he controls the weather. I like to think it was from the dead president saying, look what you've done to our position.
Let me just freeze over the entire country. Did you get to shovel snow today, Andrew?
I got to shovel snow yesterday and today.
So I made the mistake of not shoveling yesterday.
Oh, shit.
So I was supposed to have hockey last night. We ended up not going, even though they did still do what they do. They
did it have anything to do with you not shoveling?
No, it didn't. We had zero issues. So the issue would not have been going to, it would have been coming home from, because we play all the way out in Mount Clemens. So it's a 40-minute drive, 35-minute drive with good roads, let alone. The roads going to were not great, but they weren't really that bad either. It was really pretty much the start of the storm. We were a little bit worried about coming home, so we were like, you know what? Let's just not go this week. It sucks. I was pretty upset about it because, I want to play, but same time, it ain't worth it. I had to be up extra early today to go to work and everything. And so I wake up this morning. I woke up early. I got ready for work. I got outside. I went, oh shit, that's a lot of snow. But okay, we're still moving. I brushed off my car. I had already, kind of preheated it with the remote start, brushed out, which is, by the way, the greatest invention to ever have it happen to cars. That or heated seats.
And heated steering wheels.
I don't have one of those, unfortunately.
Those are incredible.
I know. My girlfriend has it, and it's wonderful. But anyways, so I have my boots on. I'm all dressed for work, ready to go, and I get in the car. I start backing out of the driveway, make it about 2 feet out of the driveway, and stuck. I'm going nowhere. And I am going forward. I'm going backward. I'm going forward. I'm going backward. At this point, I can't even get back into the driveway. So I'm obviously blocking my street at this point, and some guy pulls up and, you stuck. And I said, yeah, I am. So then he helped me get back into the driveway, and I eventually got back into my driveway. Called my boss, told him, yeah, I'm working from home today. So he also worked from home today.
Ooh.
So it was not a good start to my day, but I ended up, it kind of threw me off quite a bit because I had to move some things around because of that, but it worked out. So, but then I eventually did have to go out and face the music of shoveling the driveway.
How much fun was that?
It actually wasn't that bad. So I'll admit I cheated, or we cheated. We only shoveled half the driveway, only shoveled the part that goes from where our cars are down so that we can get out of the driveway. We did not shovel the top half of the driveway.
Bare minimum effort.
Yes, we did not shovel the top half of the driveway because it really is, it's not necessary. We shoveled a path for us and the dogs to walk to the backyard and the garage and everything, But outside of that, not necessary. It's really not. One of our dogs loves the snow. He was hopping around like a rabbit in the snow today. It was hilarious.
What about the rabbits? Are they hopping around like dogs in the snow?
No, they don't like the outside. But so mind you, the city still hadn't come and plowed the street, and they didn't actually come until 4:30.
And let me guess, they snowed you back in.
Yes, so I had to shovel again tonight. That was not fun. I was very upset with that. But
that snow gets heavy because they pack it.
Yeah, I realized that one. That part kind of sucked, but you know what? We got it. We're dug out. We're able to leave, at least. But anyways, let's go ahead and get on into the Blake Griffin talk. Reports came out yesterday that the Pistons will no longer be playing Blake Griffin until they determine his future with the franchise, whether it be via a trade or a buyout. It doesn't sound like there is a future with Blake Griffin and the Detroit Pistons. It sounds like he's gone either way. It's whether or not the Pistons can get something for him. Andrew, were you surprised at all by this? And kind of what was your immediate reaction to it?
Okay, yeah, I'll say I was kind of surprised. Like the writing was on the wall. You saw Blake Griffin just being less and less effective every night, and then
it's not even that the effort just wasn't there either.
Yeah,
like he had zero effort at all.
And so I mean, the writing was on the wall. So when the news came, it wasn't something that I was thinking about. So like that part was a shock. So I'm like, oh, they're doing it now, but like you knew it was coming. It was a matter of when. What surprises me is that it's happening now, because I'd have to think this had to be initiated. I don't know if this was initiated by Blake or by our front office, because of the fact that he doesn't have any value right now. So like it's most likely going to be a buyout, because I don't know who in the right mind is going to take on Blake Griffin the way he's playing with that contract.
Not at $39 million a year.
My mindset, and I've said on the show before, is that next year is when you really have value in moving Blake Griffin. That's a giant load of expiring money coming off the books, and you could actually get something for that. But to move him now, you're probably going to have to pay to move him now. It's like, part of me was like, why couldn't we just wait till the offseason and then trade him as if he's an expiring deal after the season?
So that reasoning right there is why I believe personally that this was brought on by Blake himself. Because it doesn't behoove the Pistons to do this right now. Like it doesn't benefit them in any way. It honestly could probably end up costing them $35 million to do this right now.
Yeah.
Or draft capital to do this right now. Like it's not.
Yeah, they save a couple bucks in the contract with a buyout, but
right. But in all reality,
the benefit is what, $3 million is what you're.
Yeah, and you're still paying him a ton of money. And if you end up trading him, it's probably going to cost you draft capital to move him. So it does not benefit the Pistons in any way to do this. And that's why I feel like Blake Griffin saw the situation with the Pistons. They are a well below 500 basketball team, not even close to competing for the playoffs, and they're not going to be this year. Albeit they have annoyingly won some games against some good basketball teams.
Yeah, as of recording, 3 of the last 4. It's pissing me off.
It's same. Sadiq Bey needs to stop making shots.
I'm so torn because, like,
I love to see it, but you hate to see it.
Exactly. I'm loving the fact that Sadiq Bey is playing so well, but at the same time, like, can we do that like while still losing, please?
You know who honestly like annoys me that he is playing so well is DeLon Wright. Because like, is there really a future with DeLon Wright on this basketball team? Probably not. But who knows? I don't know. But
who was it that? Speaking of DeLon Wright, I just remembered there was some team that was looking for point. I think it was the Sixers. Yeah, it was the Sixers. There was a rumor out there that they were in the market for a backup point guard, and they inquired about DeLon Wright. And they inquired about one other player on their team. I cannot remember who it was.
Well, reason being with DeLon Wright is I don't think they really trust Ben Simmons to continue running the point in Philly. I don't know if. Do you believe that they can win with Ben Simmons at the point? Because there's a lot of analysts out there that don't think so.
Here's the thing. Like because I do feel like Ben Simmons gets a bad rep because he's a fantastic point guard in terms of running an offense, in terms of setting his teammates up. I mean, I saw a stat the other day, just the difference in three-point percentage when Ben Simmons is assisting versus when anyone else on the team is assisting. It's like an 8% jump in three-point percentage. But the thing is, he's so completely devoid of offense, he almost becomes a liability because like he can't draw any defenders. He's not a threat. So it does hinder your ability to do some more creative things on offense. So yeah, I mean, you could say that, yeah, you're not going to win a championship with Ben Simmons because eventually people are, once you get to a high enough level or far enough in the playoffs, teams are going to figure out how to game plan for that. Like it's one crucial position on the floor that's not a scoring threat, and that basically diminishes everybody else.
Now, do you think he woke up anybody or kind of shoved it to his naysayers by putting up 42 points the other night?
I mean, I need to see him do it more consistently. It's not the first time we've seen Ben Simmons have a high scoring output for a game, but like, give me like a few straight games to 20 plus. and then we
Fair
can
enough.
talk.
I mean, Steve Nash never really did that, and the dude was an elite point guard, one of the
But
greatest.
he was also a scoring threat. The man could shoot.
He could, but he never really. I mean, his season averages were like 17 and 12. You know, he wasn't ever really.
He didn't need to.
No, but I mean, you could argue on some of those Phoenix Suns teams it would have helped if he did, because I mean, Sean Marion and Amari Sotomayor were nice, but a little bit of extra scoring help from the point guard position would have helped. But either way, going back to Blake Griffin, like it doesn't benefit the Pistons in any way. So that's why I don't really think that this was really driven by the Pistons. I think this is Blake Griffin saying, look, I don't want to go through a full rebuild. I'm in the twilight of my career. I'm at the very end of my prime. I still feel like I have some good basketball left to put out there. So put me somewhere where I can contend. I'm not, you've seen that I'm not bought into this. I'm not into this season. I don't want to be here any longer. And that's kind of what I think is what's going on over in the front office between them and Blake Griffin. And you know what? Fair to him. Fair point. Mm-hmm. He is in the twilight of his career. He does not have a future with this franchise. And in all reality, he doesn't look motivated or energized out there on the floor. So honestly, the team plays better without him anyway. So, I mean, I get why he wants to go. I do think it hurts the Pistons in the grand scheme of things because of how much it does cost to either buy him out or what we'd have to give up to move him. But either way, it's the situation they're in right now, and you have to trust Troy Weaver to make the right decision. Did you hear about Draymond Green's comments at all? Okay, so I kind of wanted to bring that up as well, and this kind of spans across to another team and player in Andre Drummond and the Cavs saying that they will no longer be playing Andre Drummond until they move him. And then Draymond Green coming out saying that these franchises are just allowed to do whatever they want, but as soon as a player says, I want to be out of here or whatever, you're automatically a bad person, bad for the locker room, and it may cost you your job. Like you may end up not being able to stick with the team, and it hurts you by being a player that wants to dictate where they play. But a franchise can say, well, you're no longer going to be playing until we want to move you. So I was kind of curious, and the same situation is obviously happening with Blake Griffin as it is with Andre Drummond. And so I'm kind of curious to hear your thoughts on what Draymond Green said in this situation.
He's not wrong because there's a right and wrong to it. The reason I say he's not wrong is because, yes, a guy like Andre Drummond, I do think there are some major flaws in his game that make him an overpaid player and make him almost toxic to a winning culture. But yeah, you also have to look at it in the fact that the two teams he played for were the Pistons when they've been god awful. I mean, they had a couple playoff seasons, but they got swept both times. For the majority of the time he was here, they were a god awful Pistons team and a terrible organization. Then he goes to another terrible organization in Cleveland post LeBron. There is something to say about the
Cleveland has a good future, though.
They have a good future, yes, but right now they're still not good.
But Drummond's still young enough to where he could be a part of that future. So
he can, but the thing is that's where I say this is kind of two-sided, because while Draymond does have a point, when you look at a guy like Drummond, I'm trying to remember who tweeted this out the other day, but he said that Drummond's the kind of guy who can give you 30 and 20 on a given night and have no impact on the game whatsoever. And it kind of rings true because a guy like Drummond, he, as much as his stats are attractive, they are very empty because he is a complete liability on the defensive end. I mean, I remember one of his last games with the Pistons, he got torched by Jahlil Okafor. He gets owned by Valanciunas every time they play. It's
just a long time domination that Valanciunas has over Drummond. It's not like Valanciunas is Akeem Olajuwon 2.0.
Yeah,
he's Jonas Valanciunas.
Yeah, it's you have that complete liability on the defensive end, and on the offensive side of the ball, you can't really ask him to do much outside of 5 feet from the rim. And even then, he has a limited array of post moves. So he's just such a good rebounder that it leads to points a lot of times for him. But that's the only source of production that you normally get from Andre Drummond. Yes, he does get the steals and the blocks, but
that's 2 to 4 plays a game.
Yeah, it's
not an impact on the game, on a large impact on the game itself. And I don't mean to cut you off, but
no, you're right.
I've said it for a long time. I've said it for several years now. And if you've listened to this podcast over the years, that I do not believe that you can win with a player like Andre Drummond if you want him to be a focal point of your team. For Andre Drummond to win in this league, he needs to be surrounded by elite playmakers and shooters who can do it themselves. So that he can just clean up the glass and not worry about anything else. He's not a focal point of the offense or the game plan in any way. And you also need to have elite defending wings. You basically need to have the Warriors of the Warriors dynasty with KD, Clay, Steph, Draymond. You need that to have a guy like Andre Drummond play winning basketball, because
he needs to be somewhere where he's only asked to rebound.
Exactly. Not even just that. It's you're able to hide his deficiencies at that point and accentuate what he does well, which is grab boards, take up space in the lane and grab the offensive glass and put it back. Like that's what Drummond does well with. And the thing is, in today's day and age, like if Drummond's skill set was 15 years ago, he'd be an elite type player. No doubt about it. But nowadays, when you really think about it, rebounding is not as important of a stat as it used to be. And there's several Saber analytics and the Sabermetrics and the new age analytics guys that say that rebounding is not as indicative of a stat for winning as it used to be. And it's just the way that the game has gone. It's not the same. There's not as much of an extent of an importance on rebounding as there used to be. Teams aren't built that way anymore because they're all built to shoot now. And the better you shoot, the less rebounds there are out there anyways. So
and I feel like shooting just gets better and better in the NBA every year. like true shooting percentages.
Exactly. So guys like Andre Drummond are just not as important as they used to be. And that's why you see like a 2020 guy or a 2015 guy on paper, that's attractive as hell.
Yeah.
But it's meaningless in today's game in all reality because, again, he doesn't shoot the ball. He's inside 5 feet under the basket where he's already limited. He shoots a low percentage down there, mind you, not even a high percentage down there. And that's all he does. So you need for him to play. If you want Andre Drummond as a focal point of your team, you will not be a winning franchise in this league. It's just the fact of the matter.
What would be an interesting fit for Andre Drummond?
Where?
Brooklyn, and here's why.
I agree with that.
They already don't play defense, so
I agree with that 100%.
He's hurting them anymore.
And they're
basically playing a 4-out 1-in, and all he's going to be doing is cleaning up the glass after Harden, KD, and Kyrie. So
in all reality, it's not much different from what they already have in DeAndre Jordan.
Yeah,
he just scores a little bit more than DeAndre Jordan does. DeAndre Jordan's a big time rebounder. He's a little bit better defensively, but he's a big time rebounder. He's a shot blocker, and he cleans up the offensive glass. There's Andre Drummond right there. So, I mean, again, like Brooklyn would be a good fit for him, obviously. So, but either way, like I'm kind of with you. Like I totally agree with what Draymond Green says, and the way he puts it, it's true. Like these teams are allowed to essentially do whatever they want with these players, say whatever they want about them, and they get away with it scot-free. Nobody ever says anything about them. Nobody cares. They're able to do whatever they want to these players as long as they're paying them, and the players can't say anything about it. They're not allowed to say anything about it. Otherwise, they'll be called a cancer in the locker room or a problem, and they won't be. And it'll affect their future in the
look at Darius Slay with the Lions.
He had a really good season with the Eagles. Like Slay still plays good football, but yeah, no, I get what you're saying.
I'm talking about like his end with the Lions was basically based on it's that same premise.
Right. And you could make a big argument that had a lot to do with the front office and the staff that they had, but
yeah,
like I let's just say if another head coach is there, Slay's not traded. But either way, like these players are mistreated in that regard. Like if the teams are allowed to voice their opinion about the players, and the players should be allowed to voice their opinions about the teams, and not be considered a cancer for it. And honestly, we're partially to blame for that too. Because we buy into it. We buy into the media. We allow these teams to say what they want about these players, and we go after the players that fight back or that say that I want out. How often do we say that, when think about it this way, when James Harden was essentially showing up to camp out overweight and was like, I don't want to play here anymore, I'm sick of this. How many people in the media and the fans said he was a cancer? A ton of them. So we're to blame for this just as much as the teams are. But again, that's how they were painted.
The football, but like Le'Veon Bell also with the Steelers when he refused to show up.
So, and it just goes to show that we really don't know what goes on behind closed doors. Like we have no idea. So,
the best we can do is speculate. We're not insiders.
Right. And so we're as much to blame as much as the teams are in all this.
Now, that being said, don't think that's a situation with Blake Griffin at all. I think it's quite the opposite.
No, I agree. Like I think Blake Griffin is the one who wants out.
Yeah.
But either way, it's, I will say that I do think this opens. See, the thing I do like about the Pistons not playing Blake Griffin and him no longer being here is it gives opportunity to guys like Sekou Doumbouya.
Exactly.
And it gives these young guys more opportunity.
And now
to
Sadiq's
build
going to get
and
even
grow.
more minutes, and now we're going to win even more games. Damn it.
Right. I mean, there's no question this team is better without Blake Griffin on the floor. No question.
Yeah.
But it does allow the younger guys to get more minutes, get more opportunity. And in all reality, Blake Griffin really wasn't going to make an impact on this team this year anyways. So I'm happy, but I'm also like, I wish we could have been able to get something for him because we would have been able to next year. But either way, it is what it is at this point, and we're here. So we don't have any other option but to move forward.
All right, percent chance that this actually happens as a trade.
I'll give it about like a 7% chance.
Yeah, I was going to say 5%, so I'm like right there with you.
I don't see the Pistons being willing to give up draft capital to move him, and I don't see a team being willing to take him on for anything that's not draft capital.
Exactly.
So
because you think about it, like I feel the only teams that are going to want a guy like Blake Griffin is a team that, well, first of all, I feel like Blake Griffin is going to want to go to contender. I feel like a contender is the only one that would be able to actually make use of Blake Griffin. But at the same time, what contender has the cap room to take on Blake Griffin's contract? It just doesn't. Things don't add up.
I see this ending in a buyout somewhere in the range of $30 to $32 million. Mm-hmm.
Now, real quick, Bleach Report, Greg Swartz put out an article, potential landing spots for Blake Griffin. Now, he doesn't specify if he thinks this could be a trade or a buyout, but I'm curious just where you think Blake Griffin would thrive the most in this stage of his career, if there is such thing as Blake Griffin's thriving anymore. The three teams are the Boston Celtics, the Miami Heat, and the Los Angeles Lakers.
Miami's such just like in a dumpster fire disarray of what the hell is going on that I don't know if anyone could succeed there right now. Because
I think he'd actively hurt that team.
I do too, because they're a mess right now and they need to get their shit together because that's a good basketball team. Granted, I know they've had the injury bug this year, but still, they are not playing the way they need to. You said the Boston Celtics, Miami Heat, and who else?
The Lakers.
Lakers are interesting because I just believe that LeBron could potentially put him in a role to succeed because it's not like Blake Griffin plays the same way he used to. Like the stat came out the other day that he hasn't dunked since 2019. Now picture like 6-7 years ago. Could you ever picture a time where Blake Griffin doesn't dunk for 3 years or 2 years?
It's just stupid.
Exactly. Like so I think in a situation with LeBron, Blake Griffin could succeed, but it would be very much like in the shadow of AD and LeBron. Like he would very much be in the shadow there.
Yeah. Building on that stat, though, John Hollinger actually put out that Blake Griffin, in his last 626 minutes playing, which I think equates that same time frame that you mentioned, like you said, 0 dunks, only 2 blocks also in that time frame.
Really? Wow. All right.
And no knees. 0 knees in that
Zero
time frame.
knees in that time frame. You are absolutely right. You know what? He's probably had a few knees, in fact, but all of them equate to 0 at this point.
I feel the Lakers are kind of interesting, especially now with Davis having to sit.
Yeah, that's also another factor is Davis having to sit for a little bit. Blake Griffin would come in and bring some talent to that team, and I do think it would energize him a little bit to be able to play alongside LeBron and in LA again and in front of those fans one more time. And I do think it would energize him a little bit, and you may see some not quite vintage Blake Griffin, but a second spark, so to speak.
Yeah.
The other one in Boston, I just don't see it. It's tough for me to see an outsider coming into Boston and succeeding. Like I feel like the Mean Girls clique over in Boston. Like they don't like outsiders coming in and messing what they have going, regardless of if it's successful or not. I don't see too many people coming into that situation and succeeding there. You know, they have the guys they have in Jaylen Brown and Kemba Walker and Jason Tatum, and that's what it is. You know, there's not much else to add to it. They're going to live and die with that.
See, I have a bit of a different take on the Boston fit because, like you said, you got those guys like Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Kemba Walker. Blake Griffin is going to be nothing higher than the number 4 option on that team. And actually, I feel like it comes in a good position for Boston because if you think about it, their power forward rotation has been shaky at best. I mean, Daniel Tice has been the only one that's been able to stick relatively in that lineup. Like, it's been pretty bad outside of that. So I do feel they could actually use a 4. And if Blake Griffin's going to only be asked about the number 4 scorer, I think it actually takes some pressure off him and allow him to thrive a little bit more than he has been in Detroit. I think it could work.
So in terms of skill set and what they would ask him to do, it would work. I just don't see him meshing with the team based on how that team is with, I think they have their nucleus and that's what runs and drives things. It's tough for me to see them adding somebody and that somebody being successful, especially a bigger name and personality like Blake Griffin. I don't see an outsider coming in and taking the reins in any type of way. And that's where I don't see Blake Griffin really succeeding there is because of that. Versus in LA, I do think he can do that. I do think he can be asked to take on the game and take over a game every now and then and succeeding there to do that. Because I think he'll have some help in doing that with LeBron. I think if Blake's hot one night, LeBron has no problems giving up the ball to him. And we've seen that in his later years. He has zero issues putting up 18, 20 points and taking a step back in the scoring and throwing up 14 assists to another guy. So that's why I see, like, if Blake Griffin's hot, LeBron will accentuate that. Versus in Boston, I'd see a little bit of a power struggle between guys like Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Blake Griffin. Whereas, like, the skill set makes sense and asking him to be the number 4 guy, but, like, I would see them having problems giving up the ball to a guy like Blake Griffin on any given night. So, but anyways, anything else to add on the Blake Griffin stuff?
Yeah, let's just hope it doesn't end with us giving up draft picks, and let's hope it's just a buyout.
That honestly would be worst case scenario in my mind because like we've done well to add draft capital. Like I want to continue adding draft capital with some of the assets that we have. Granted, we don't have a ton, but I want to continue adding that draft capital. I also heard that we already owe a draft pick to the Houston Rockets, like a first-round draft pick.
Well, there was that heavily protected first-round draft pick. Remember that we it was part of that deal for us to move up to, I believe it was 16. We traded
with the Christian Wood trade.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was so like super heavily protected. It's very, very slim chance it actually conveys. So
right. It like the earliest chance it'll likely convey is probably 3 years from now.
No, I think it was like top 15 protected through like 2026. I think it was.
Oh, okay.
Like,
all right. Well, fair enough. Either way, though, like I don't want to see the Pistons giving up draft capital to move Blake Griffin. That's worst case scenario in my mind. So let's go ahead and move on here. I wanted to kind of I know. Matt Stafford's gone, and it's time to move on as a fan base. I get it, but at the same time, there's not a lot of shit going on in the city of Detroit outside of a bunch of snow falling from the sky.
Yep.
So here we are talking about Matthew Stafford again. So, I saw a question or heard a question on local sports radio, The Ticket, the other day. It really kind of piqued my interest. With Matthew Stafford being gone, and you'd probably say he was the face of Detroit sports over the last 5 years, probably. Miguel Cabrera has really no longer been the face. He's been either hurt or just not very good. Verlander's gone. We really haven't had a Piston be the face of the city of the sports teams in the city for a while. Blake Griffin flirted with it for a year, but since then, no. The Red Wings really they don't have a high profile enough guy just yet. Dylan Larkin's starting to make a case, but in his first year of captaincy, he's not quite there, and the team's not relevant enough yet. So Matthew Stafford has been the face of Detroit sports. With him being gone, Andrew, my question for you is, who is the next face of Detroit sports?
So I'm trying to go team by team here. I don't think it's going to be anybody on the Lions.
You don't think Jared Goff's got a chance?
I mean, he's got a chance. I just don't see it happening. The biggest contender for it on the Pistons would probably be Jeremy Grant.
Yes, I'll agree with that. And see, the thing is about Grant is like he has that workman's mentality that the city endears. So like I think he's got a really good chance.
Would you see? I might as well versus Red Wings. Would you say Larkin would probably be?
I absolutely think Larkin's got a really good shot. Like I think he's up there at least with a guy like Jeremy Grant, just because he's now the captain. He was destined to be the captain. They've given him the C on his sweater. Like if the team starts performing well and starts winning some hockey games, and you start seeing this team flirting with the playoffs over the next couple of years here, I think Dylan Larkin absolutely could turn himself into the face of a city, of the sports franchises in this town. But
and then turning to the Tigers, like it's not Miggy anymore.
No, it's not. I mean, there's
maybe Torkelson in a couple of years.
I think Torkelson's got a great shot in a few years once he gets up to the big leagues. I think Casey Mize has a great shot because you'll see him this year. I think you've got a few young guys with the Tigers in Casey Mize, Tarek Skubal, and then you've also got Torkelson. There's a few guys with the Tigers that can definitely make a case. I
think, and this one might just me being biased, but since I follow the Pistons a little more closely than I do a team like the Red Wings, I probably got to lean Jeremy Grant, assuming he stays with us for a few years.
So I probably lean Dylan Larkin as the one, just because when the Wings are good, the city endears them to them a lot more.
That is very true.
Than they do the Pistons. Granted, if you get a crew together like the Going to Work crew, it's a totally different story. Ben Wallace absolutely was the face of the city for a while. But you have to have that somebody like that with that type of, that crew, that mentality that just aligns itself with the city. And honestly, I don't know that we'll ever see that in our life.
The best fit's Isaiah Stewart, but I don't think he's going to make it quite that high anytime soon.
No, I don't either, but God, is he fun to watch play. He, honest to God, might be my favorite guy to watch play, outside of maybe Jeremy Grant, but I love watching Isaiah Stewart play the game.
The way he just bounces over the floor.
And he just, it's almost like you are watching. And don't get me wrong, I'm not comparing the two. I'm not saying he's anywhere
We've done
close.
this before.
I'm not saying he's going to be this. I'm not putting him in the same conversation, but at the same time I am, because it's almost like watching Ben Wallace play.
Yep. No, I'm right there with you. I am right there with you.
But I probably will say, in terms of guys that are on the active roster right now, I probably will say it is Dylan Larkin, just because, again, the city just aligns itself with the Red Wings when they're successful in a way that, it's not football town, it's not basketball town, it's hockey town for a reason. And the city really loves its Red Wings when they're successful. But again, they got to get there.
Yeah.
So it is going to be reliant on success with that team. Tigers, again, Torkelson, Mize, Skubal all have a really good shot. Torkelson especially. I'm going to throw out a dark horse here, and it's not a guy even on a roster. On a roster right now. Although, before I get to that, what do you think about Deandre Swift? Do you think he has a shot?
If there was anyone I was picking from the Lions, it was going to be Deandre Swift. But I just can't see it because of the fact that I just don't see the Lions being relevant again for at least a few years. So it would be a while before.
Could you really argue the Lions are relevant over the last few seasons and Matthew Stafford was still the face?
Well, Matthew, he became the face by making the playoffs a few times. Taking the team like the Lions to the playoffs a few times.
And also, he's the quarterback. There is a big difference there. Running back isn't quite. If he puts up Derrick Henry numbers, then we'll start talking. How's that?
There you go.
But the one that I saw that honestly kind of made me think a little bit is the next face of Detroit sports is whoever they take at number 7. Whether it be Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, whoever. It's whoever they take at number 7. What would you think about that?
Even if it's not a quarterback?
Even if it's not a quarterback. And do you think there's a possibility there? Obviously, if it's an offensive lineman or a defensive lineman, that's not going to happen. But realistically speaking.
See, I totally agree with that if we're talking quarterback. I can't honestly.
What if we're talking Devontae Freeman or Jamar Chase?
See, even then I could, but what I'm saying, I can really see them taking a guy like Micah Parsons, for example, or Penei Sewell. I don't see either.
I would love Penei Sewell.
But as much as I love either of those picks, I don't see those guys becoming the face of the Detroit sports. It's.
I mean, the thing is though is to see a linebacker be the face of a sports team. It's not unheard of. Ray Lewis, for example, he has been a face of a team. J.J. Watt, granted he's more of a defensive end, but he also played a little bit of stand-up defensive end. Or there's names out there that are the face of a franchise, so to speak. So if Micah Parsons steps into that role, then you could see him be the face. But again, though, the one caveat with those guys was they had elite level defenses that put them there. So in the Lions, I don't think are anywhere close to that. That's for damn sure. Let's just say if it is Micah Parsons if Micah Parsons is going to be the face of Detroit sports, it isn't going to be for at least a few years.
But again, I could certainly see someone like Jamar Chase or Devontae Smith being
Devontae
being
Smith.
the
Did I say
face.
Devontae Freeman?
You did, but it's okay.
Okay.
Obviously, I'm not because the last wide receiver I remember being the face of Detroit sports is Calvin Johnson. I am not saying that you're going to reach that Calvin Johnson stratosphere, but you can certainly become a great wide receiver and be a face of Detroit sports in the city. And I do think that a guy like Jamar Chase, for example, has the potential to be that. So I could see that happening. I just don't see it happening drafting
with Jared Goff throwing him the football.
That too, but I just don't see it happening with a lineman or a defensive position on a bad defense like you said. So
right. No, I agree with that, and that's still why I kind of lean Dylan Larkin because again, with the way the Wings drafts have gone, with the talent they've been able to acquire, I think the Wings are not necessarily close to getting back to relevancy, but I feel like they're almost right there. They have talent. I see a direction with this organization where I don't necessarily with the Lions just yet. Or, I'm not quite entirely ready to say that the Pistons are set on their direction. I feel like I have the outlines of a direction. I see the blueprints of a railroad track being built across the country, but I haven't seen them start in that direction just yet. Because again, we haven't really gotten to. I think this draft will really start laying the groundwork for that.
Yes.
If you know what I mean. Whereas with the Wings, it's already there. They're in place. It's moving forward. So that's where I kind of lean Dylan Larkin because again, the city aligns itself with the Wings when they're successful, and I do think that they can be CBY can lead them to some pretty big heights as he has several times in the past when he was the face of Detroit sports.
Oh yeah.
So he knows what it takes. One more question about the Lions before we end things here. So Vegas has the Lions as the biggest long shot to win the Super Bowl. I believe they're 150-1 or something like that. The biggest long shot to win the Super Bowl next year.
I want a stat of how many times the Lions have been the biggest long shot to win the Super Bowl.
Do you think that's fair to put the Lions as the biggest long shot to win the Super Bowl, even though there's teams like the Jets out there, or there's a few teams out there that are pretty damn bad. Let's just say that. Do you really think the Lions are the biggest long shot in the league to win the Super Bowl next year?
That's a great question. Let's think of this logically. Right now, while we sit here, the Jacksonville Jaguars are worse than the Lions. But you put Trevor Lawrence in the mix.
I'm not even going to quite go that far. I don't know what they are.
I was going to say you put Trevor Lawrence in the mix. I no longer think so. Assuming Trevor Lawrence is as good as advertised.
Looking at their roster, yes, their offensive line is bad. Their defense is pretty damn bad too. But so was the Lions. The offensive line for the Lions is better than the offensive line for the Jags. Defense, we'll call it a wash. They're both terrible. Receiving core, advantage Jaguars. I think they got a real nice receiving core over in Jacksonville. I do. I love DJ Chark.
Yeah,
dude's a monster.
I agree. I like the receiving core.
Running backs, I give the edge to
Robinson.
Jacksonville. James Robinson was a monster last year.
James Robinson, sorry.
And then you add in Trevor Lawrence to that mix. That offense looked pretty damn good.
No, you might not be wrong there. And see, the New York Jets is the only one I struggle to make a case for. But let's move past them real quick. The Miami Dolphins.
They were already flirting with the playoffs.
I think they're already better than us.
Yes, they were flirting with the playoffs Falcons, last year.
Assuming they can retool on the fly. I mean, they're headed in the wrong direction, but I think on paper they're still a better football team.
Yes, they have more talent than we do.
Cincinnati Bengals, they'll get Joe Burrow back, and
they have more talent than we do.
Draft a guy like Penei Sewell, and that's just even better. The Eagles, I still think, are a better football team than we are, especially with Jalen Hurts emerging towards the end of last season. So just look at the teams picking before us in the draft. The only team I struggle to make a case for is the Jets. If Justin Fields ends up being really good in the NFL, it becomes a bit easier to make that case.
I'm going to throw one other team out to you who I think will be a worse football team than the Detroit Lions next year. The Houston Texans.
Forgot about Houston.
I do not believe Deshaun Watson will be on that football team next year.
Because that defense was already terrible.
And then you lost J.J. Watt.
You lost J.J. Watt. I agree.
Probably lose Will Fuller.
I don't think Deshaun Watson will be there.
You probably lose Will Fuller. What do you have left on that football team? David Johnson. Woo! When's the last time he was any good? 4 years ago? Brandon Cooks? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You're
that
right.
football team And mind you, their offensive line is
Jordan
also
Akins,
terrible. Yeah,
Darren
their offensive
Fells.
line is also terrible. That football team may be the worst
Good call.
football team on week 1.
I think as soon as you see Deshaun Watson move, I think their odds will slip.
I think there's no question. In fact, I would be pretty comfortable putting in a bet that they will finish with the worst record in the league next year. I really don't believe that the Houston Texans are like, not to mention the fact that you have a bunch of turmoil with the new front office and the new coaching staff is very lukewarm. Like it's just a bad situation over there in Houston right now. I don't think anything good is going to come out of Houston right now. So I would put Houston as the biggest long shot to win the Super Bowl in my mind. And honestly, I'd probably throw the Jets there next. And the reason I say that is because the Jets are just a bad organization. I'm going to take a sentence out of Mike Valenti's mouth here, and I can't believe I'm doing this, but Jets are losers. The Jets are losers. It is what it is. That's what they do. And I know we have some old fans of the live show that are Jets fans, but like the Jets aren't successful. And I know they've had more recent success than the Lions. Lions are losers too. I get it.
Remember Chad Pennington?
Yes, I do. Dude was a stud.
I was literally just trying to think back to the last time the Jets were good, and then I just remember Chad Pennington.
They made the AFC Championship with Mark Sanchez.
They did that too.
That was when Rex Ryan was their head coach. And then butt fumble happened. And
they went far with some bad quarterbacks.
Yes. And then butt fumble happened, and they were never the same.
I'll give Chad Pennington mediocre. I'll give him mediocre. I won't say bad for
He
Chad.
wasn't. I'd honestly say he was a good quarterback in the league. He was top 15. He was a good quarterback in the league.
He kind of like disappeared suddenly, though. It was like a overnight drop off, is what it felt like.
But either way, like I think the Jets all around, like they have no weapons. Like I straight up believe Sam Darnold in another situation could have been a really good, like a really solid, good quarterback in this league. I
Still
desperately think. I know. I desperately hope he gets a chance somewhere else. But
I'm Justin Fields. I'm like, please don't take me. Please don't take me. Please.
I am anybody who goes to New York. I'm regretting my life.
And if I'm Trevor Lawrence, I'm thanking my lucky stars that they decided to win their last 2 games.
Yes, agreed.
Real quick,
they can't even lose right.
I remember saying about the Lions so many times.
The Lions can't even lose right either, so I shouldn't be talking there.
Real quick mock draft question before we close the show. I'm looking at the mock draft right now. Lions at 7 on the board have Trey Lance, Micah Parsons, Jamar Chase. Devontae Smith is off the board. The other 3 quarterbacks are off the board. Penei Sewell's off the board. Between those 3, who do you take?
Oh my God, I feel like I flip-flopped on this so damn much. Like I've been touting the receivers so much, but then I'm looking at it like, okay, then you're looking at another Kenny Galladay situation when this team's ready to win again, and so receiver may not be the right choice because then you got to pay the guy, and I'll go Micah Parsons. I'm gonna stand by my Micah Parsons pick. I think he's going to be a legit top tier linebacker in this league. The Lions desperately need that. I'm gonna go with Micah Parsons because again, we're not ready to win. Wide receivers say it should be for the teams that are ready to win, and I'd rather take my shot on a quarterback in next year's draft than on Trey Lance, who played 1 football game all year. So I'll go with Micah Parsons.
I agree with you. The mock draft says Jamar Chase.
I mean, fair. That's the Lions taking wide receivers the hot button right now. You know,
I mean, we're probably going to the season with no wide receivers is what it's looking like.
You're probably right.
No Galladay, no Marvin Jones. Not sure what's happening in Amendola.
I think they will franchise tag Kenny Galladay, and I think he'll take the franchise tag. And reason being is this is not a good year to be a free agent wide receiver, especially because 1, the salary cap is lower than it was. So there's less money to spend, so salary offers will be lower. 2, the wide receiver market is heavy this offseason. So I think he would be willing to take a franchise tag on a 1-year situation to go get himself some big money next offseason. And I think that's what the Lions will do. And I think it's the right decision. I really do. I do. Do you disagree?
No. It's the right decision for Kenny Galladay. If I'm the Lions, I don't see the point in trying to keep him around. But
the point is, if he steps up and cements himself as a true top tier wide receiver, like I'm talking top 5, top 10 wide receiver in this football league, then you re-sign him to a big contract. And because that means that you will guarantee the next quarterback of this franchise has a legit number one option at wide receiver, because once you get your next guy, that team automatically, immediately is on the track to start winning. That's why you do it. So that's why I believe the Lions will franchise tag Kenny Golladay, and he'll be perfectly fine taking it. Because, again, it's the average top 5 salaries at wide receiver. I don't even think he's worth that, but it's a 1-year deal. Yeah, and that's why I don't think the Lions go wide receiver in the draft either, because I think they franchise Kenny Golladay and then they go elsewhere at the draft spot. Frankly, if Micah Parsons doesn't have a good combine or whatever, or he starts slipping a little bit, I would have zero issues with the Lions traded out of number 7. If guys like Penei Sewell are off the board and all the top 3 quarterbacks are off the board.
I don't disagree. Assuming we can get some future draft capital in there too. That'd be nice.
Yes, absolutely. Anything else to add?
No, that's all I got.
All right, that's going to call for this week, guys. Thank you so much for listening. We will catch you guys next week. Follow us on Twitter at Real Fan Report is where you can find us. Thank you to Detroit Sports Podcast as always. And Andrew, thank you for joining me. We will catch you guys next week. This has been the Fan Reporters. Bye, fans.
For fans.
We'll see you guys. Have a good one. Stay safe out there and stay warm because it's going to get brutally cold. And hopefully you're not snowed in. We'll catch you guys next week. Peace out.
Peace.